having, like you said, like a handful of meals that you can pull out on any of those certain occasions, it is from scratch, but it's not going to impress anyone. I think people take from scratch and they take it to mean it has to be way more than it even is. And then also there's definitely something to be said for getting good at something. If you make bread, you've made it hundreds of times. It's not even hard. It's not something you have to think about.
That's really good advice. It's just finding a couple things that you can really focus on and become really good at. So when it comes to the point where you're just tired or whatever, you can just throw it together.
My name is Lisa, mother of 8 and creator of the blog and YouTube channel Farmhouse on Boone. On this podcast, I like to talk about simplifying your life so you can live out your priorities. I help you learn how to cook from scratch and decorate on a budget through this podcast and my courses, Simple Sourdough and the Simple Sewing series. I also help people reach their goals from home through my business course, YouTube Success Academy. I will leave links to these resources in the show notes and description box below. Now let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. Today, I'm having on Meg Hollar of Hollar Homestead. She came on about a year ago and we talked about the homestead, about getting it all done as a mom. I believe we talked about some pregnancy and postpartum stuff as she was about to be expecting their 6th child. Well, today we're going to have a similar conversation. A lot of you wanted to hear from Meg again. A lot of you follow her over on YouTube and wanted her perspective on cooking from scratch, managing a large family, homesteading. So I think that if you like those topics and you want to be encouraged by those topics, you're going to really like this episode. Meg, welcome back on. A lot of people put in your name as a request. They wanted to hear from you. I told some of them she's been on, but we will do another episode. So there's a lot of audience questions, a lot of requests for you. So I don't remember when you were last on. I should have looked this up, but what is new in your world since then? I feel like you either had a brand new baby or you were pregnant. Am I correct?
I was
during the
pregnant,
last time
yes.
that we recorded together? Okay. Yeah. I thought that was like something very imminent. So how long ago was that? You would know then.
So our last podcast, I believe, was the beginning of April, and I wound up having the baby beginning of May. She was about a week late.
Okay, yeah, because I do remember that you either had a brand new baby or that you were like very close to actually having the baby. So I think a lot of our conversation, people had a lot of questions and it was fresh in your mind about pregnancy and postpartum. So for those who didn't listen to the last episode, who maybe don't follow you on YouTube, tell us a little bit about yourself and your family and what you share about over on YouTube.
Okay, yeah. So we really just share our homesteading life. It is me, my husband, and our now 6 children. Our channel kind of started off with traveling because we originally lived in California. And so we sold our house and we all piled into an RV then it was just our 4 kids. And we traveled around the United States and found a new homestead in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So that's where we are now. And since then, since landing here, we've just been sharing our life of growing our own food and raising babies and doing the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. So what was it that brought you to North Carolina? I think we talked about this last time, but I forget. Is there family there or it was just the weather or like the homesteading climate?
Mostly the weather, actually. No, we're actually farthest away from our family as we could possibly get. Not necessarily on purpose, but that's just how it worked out. So we traveled all over and we just really loved North Carolina when we came through. I mean, we came through in October. So the fall colors were like gorgeous. And there was like water falling from the sky, which is not something that happens in California. And, and we just loved it. We tell people, we're like, as soon as we crossed the border, it felt like home, which kind of sounds, obnoxiously romantic, but that's how it felt. And so we found a place here and we love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there are a lot of people who don't have location as a boundary, whether it's because they work from home or, they have a job that can transfer. So I'm sure you get asked a lot. I get asked a lot from my, audience on YouTube or Instagram, where would you recommend homesteading? And I'm like, well, I grew up in Missouri, so I've never moved. I never will. And so I'm like, I'm very biased. I think it's fine. But, you had the opportunity and took almost that same approach of like, where should we homestead, and landed on North Carolina. I'm sure, do people ask you that question as well? Like, okay, you looked at everything. What were the considerations you made? And how is this the place that you were like, okay, this would be a really good place? I'm assuming, to raise your family and then also the actual homesteading aspect of it.
Right. Yeah. So water was actually a really huge consideration for us coming from California because water is so scarce and so regulated out there. So when we got here and like there really is water falling from the sky and out of the ground and like there's streams and there's watersheds that are prominent. And so that was a huge factor for us. We have a well on our place. That was a really big deal for us. And just the fact that we could like get a well without having to drill for, a mile almost.
Oh, wow.
And then homeschool factors were a big deal for us. So we homeschool all of our children we have from the very beginning. So we needed to make sure that it was a homeschool friendly state. And it is. And actually the area we landed is actually really big on homeschooling. There's a lot of homeschooling families where we are in our county. So that was a big deal too.
That's a cool consideration that I don't feel like you can necessarily, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but find out until you're somewhere. Like, what's the community like? Who am I going to meet? Are we going to be able to have like a homeschool group, a community? Did you vet that out before you landed there? Or was it just kind of like something that ended up working out?
It just really worked out. We didn't vet anything. We checked the laws for the state on hslda.org, which is the Homeschool Legal Defense.
Yeah, we're members too.
Yeah, we love them. We've been members from the beginning. So we checked out the laws.
I did the full fee like years and years ago. I'm like, let's just pay for it up front. We know we're going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, we have like at the time 4 kids. We got 6 now. Like we're lifetime members.
You're in it now.
So we checked that out for the laws. But as far as like the community, we really didn't. I mean, it's like you said, until you actually move there, you don't really know. So we just kind of like tossed a coin. We've done a lot of stuff on our own anyways. Just as far as like we do our own field trips and we do a lot of our, we do all of our curriculum ourselves. So we hadn't needed extracurricular activities to like round out. So it was just kind of a bonus that when we moved here, there were other homeschool families. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Okay. So what was the first, I think we talked about this last time, but we'll just briefly talk about like how you started your homestead, like where you invested your first money in it or effort and time. And then also, since we haven't spoken in about a year, what are you working on now? And what are the plans maybe for this spring, summer?
Okay, yeah. So I think one of our biggest things we did was really just get beds in the ground because we moved here with the intention of growing our own food. That was our number one goal. And it still really is. I mean, if we're talking about what we're doing, is just growing our own food. So we put a lot of time and money and effort into the infrastructure of beds and soil and building places to put those things. And then also getting animals. So we got meat birds and we got pigs. That was our first big purchase was pigs. And then, the infrastructure that goes along that, fencing, chicken tractors, that kind of thing. So, and that's been our main focus. Right. We now do all of our own pork and all of our own chicken. And last year we actually did our own beef as well. We just don't have another cow right now. So we've been looking into getting more cows. Yeah. We had a dairy cow previously, and then her calf became our steer that we butchered. So we're hoping to add cows back in. I'm not sure if it'll be this year, but we're looking at possibly getting another dairy animal and then possibly another beef that we raise ourselves. So that would be the big thing if we're going to do this year. We've also added more beds this year to increase our growing space. And we're adding an addition to our house because we have more people now. So we need more space.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the big thing this year.
Yes. Yeah. That's always an exciting thing to do.
Yeah.
So as far as the beds, are you doing primarily raised beds?
Yes, we are. And the reason for that is, well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one is our ground is really hard here and it's very clay heavy. It's almost entirely clay. And so to break ground in ground is very difficult. It takes a lot of disking and we have to add a whole bunch of amendments and compost and things to get it like friable. So it's not just clumps of clay. And the second reason we do raised beds is because we get a lot of water here. So we have huge rain events that will wash away half of our bed. Yeah. And all of the soil and all the amendments that we've worked to put in it. So raised beds have worked out really well for us.
Yeah. They work really well here too for a lot of reasons. I feel like they're, you can plant directly in the ground and a lot of people do, but that's what we've chosen to do. I'm curious about the dairy. I know you had a dairy cow for a while. And then I guess you currently don't. What have been like the pros and cons, and are you looking forward to having another dairy animal?
Yeah, we do miss having a cow. We really enjoyed that. And I would say pros and cons. One of the cons was we had a hard time getting her rebred.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, right. We couldn't get her bred back. So that was a struggle that we had not expected.
That's such a problem.
I didn't know it was a problem, but it was.
I don't feel like people talk about it enough. Like it's a constant problem.
Okay.
With having it, and there's no tried and true thing, like there's cons to every aspect of getting them bred back.
Right. So I just thought it was going to be this easy thing. Like we could tell when she was in heat, she was very obvious. And so I just called the vet and I was like, hey, our cow's in heat. We know when her cycle is. Like she's very obvious. I just need you to like come out and AI her. And they're like, oh no, we don't do that. They have to do the cycle with the hormones and they put it on a schedule and then they come out, a couple days later and this whole thing. So we did that 3 times. And by the 3rd time we were like, all right, if this doesn't work, then we're going to try to find a bull, just like a rent a bull. We had some friends who had bulls. And so we were like, okay, we could try that. But then we were like, logistically, like, do we bring him here or do we take her there? And we don't have a stock trailer at the moment. So it was like, well, now we need to find a stock trailer. And we had a whole bunch of life stuff
had
going
to borrow
on.
One.
Yeah, it's a pain. So we just decided where we were at in life. And with this cow, we were just going to sell her. And she was actually still in milk. She had been in milk for 1.5 years. And we found some people that were really cool with that. And they had other cows and they had a bull. So we just sold her off. And we were like, we're just going to take a break for a while. We're kind of tired of being married to this cow. Because that's another con is you have to milk every day. And we didn't have any like relief workers that could come in and do it. So we struggled with not being able to go anywhere at specific times of the day because we're with this cow. So we took a break for a while. And now that it'll be almost 2 years coming in July that we've been without a cow. And all of our kids are like, we really just wish we had milk, out in our yard. And, we're having to buy milk now. And we have a raw milk dealer here that we can get raw milk from, but it's still we got to go out every week and buy the milk and they don't always have as much as we need or we'll drink. And if we just had a cow on tap and it covers just our drinking, it doesn't cover anything if I want to make cheese or butter or anything like that. So,
right. Exactly.
So we're still weighing it. I would say another con is having to make sure you either have enough grass or you're having to buy in hay. So we have figured out we have enough grass in the summer for 1 cow.
Right. Yeah.
And we can't get any more than that. If we do, like once her calf was large enough and he was eating full time, we were having to move paddocks even more frequently. We were doing once a day. We were having to move twice a day just to make sure they had enough grass. And then we couldn't get back around we were going around too fast. Usually you want to let the ground rest for a period of time to lower parasite load and let the grass recover. And we were just having to go around too fast. So we were having to buy in more and more hay. So that's also the balance too. Is like, well, which is easier, which is better, and which is nicer on our pocket as far as, buying in hay. And we're trying to buy unsprayed hay, which is really hard to find around here.
Oh man, I don't even know if I even thought about that because I don't think it's even possible where I am, but we did, well, I'm sure it probably is somewhere, but yeah, that would be very hard to find. I agree with you on all the same issues. So we did have a vet that would come out if you knew the cow was in heat. And that actually worked for us because we could tell too. The first time, it was very easy. It was like such one of those experiences that like doesn't really set you up for what this is actually like. But the first time we needed to have our cow bred back, she went into heat. We called the vet. He AI'd her. She was pregnant. I mean, it was like the easiest thing ever.
Oh my gosh.
But then all the subsequent times was nothing like that. He definitely would come out. He wasn't going to make you do like the unnatural cycle with all the hormones. And the thing about that was these cows, when you need to breed them back, they're always still in milk because, you need to do it around like 9-ish or maybe around a year you do that. No, I'm sorry. You want them to have the calf at a year. So somewhere around like 3 months,
yes,
you're really
3 months,
in the milk. Yeah. And so bringing them to a friend with a bull, that's a problem unless you're going to drive to their house 2 times a day to milk the cow, you know? And then we actually rented a bull from a friend, and he was a dairy bull, and it was actually like really scary. Not that he did anything, but I read so many things about dairy bulls. I grew up with cattle. Like we had Angus bulls around. They didn't scare me at all. I went and, like was around them, and it did not scare me. And we're still around them because my parents have them. But having a dairy bull was scary. I think when we do this again, when we do get a dairy animal again, I think we'll probably get, this is at least my current thought, maybe like an Angus bull. I'll borrow one from one of my parents or something, for my parents or my sister. And then maybe that would work. I don't know, but it's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as far as like the economics of it, and I get asked this all the time, and I can't say I'm the best at like calculating everything to really see, but did you ever figure out, if once you sell the calf and once you have all the milk, and then what's, the feed that you're buying and the hay, how it shakes out versus buying milk locally, raw milk? Now, of course, it's going to depend on the prices where you are, but I'm curious if you ever worked that math out.
I did run some numbers. So we didn't sell our calf. We ate him.
Yeah,
and
right.
That
so
actually,
you can work
that
that
price
in.
alone saved us. Yeah, we saved a bunch on the price of beef with that. He actually came out to about $1.89 a pound, which for grass-fed beef was fantastic.
Yes.
And we had figured out at the time when we were buying milk, it was before we bought her, it was about $7 a gallon. And I had figured, with what she was giving about 2 gallons a day. So it wound up being like she paid for herself in like a month and a half. So, and we didn't buy in a whole lot for her. We bought some alfalfa. She would get alfalfa after we were done milking. And then we didn't have to buy a whole lot of hay. I think she only went through one winter with us. So it wound up being, it was like 4 months worth of hay that we had to buy before our grass came ready again. So we wound up not spending a whole lot on her out of pocket. So she really didn't cost us that much. She really did pay for herself as far as like, I guess it kind of evened out as far as what we would buy on milk and what she paid for herself by providing us milk, and then between the hay. So it came out to a wash.
Yes. And like you talked about earlier, the thing that I miss about having a dairy cow, and I do think we'll have a dairy cow again, is just the abundance. You get more than you can, you can make your yogurt, you can make your kefir, your cheese, your sour cream, just everything. And you don't have to worry about having enough. You truly have the abundance that can really feed your family. It's such a staple part of the diet. So I think that for me was what we miss most, because we do get milk from a local farm, and she has a pretty good amount, but you're not going to be getting 14 gallons a week,
Right. We buy 8 a lot of weeks. And even that sometimes is kind of pushing it. Like the place we buy it, it's like, well, I mean, if you really have to, sure.
Right.
And then I feel guilty. And I'm like, well, shoot, I just need a cow.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can get it. You probably could, especially if you went to maybe a couple different farms, but I'm with you. We've had definitely instances where it's like, oh, what about the other customers? I'm like, so it's the abundance thing that I think I appreciated most. When Luke and I were first married 17 years ago, we were on a super tight budget, and the only way that I could decorate my home and make it my own cozy space was by doing a lot of DIY and sewing. I've shared that for years on my YouTube channel, on this podcast, on my blog, and recently I put all of those resources together, all of the patterns, the tutorials, and then step-by-step instructions from getting a machine and threading it, learning about tension issues and the bobbin, all those things maybe over the years that have scared you away from sewing, into one course that I've called the Simple Sewing Series. If you've wanted to sew but have been intimidated by the process of getting started, or even if you're a more seasoned seamstress or sewist and you want to improve your skills, I really think that this will be a great resource for you. There's also a private community associated with it, so if you have sewing questions or you're excited to meet other people who are also getting started on their sewing journey, that's available with the course as well, and it's for a very affordable price. You can find my new course and all of the resources that go along with it over at bit.ly/simple sewing course. That's bit.ly/simple sewing course, all lowercase. That's where you can find more info and become a student. Okay, so we got a lot of questions about in the kitchen. You know, as a mom of 6, you are cooking nonstop.
Yes.
And everyone has to cook every day. And so I think we sometimes get in this rut and we are sick of what we're making, or it's more complicated than it needs to be. So they want to hear about it. What are some of your favorite things to cook for everyday meals? And do you have any tips or strategies for staying on top of it without losing your sanity? Like, do you meal plan, or how do you always cook without it being this huge thing? Like every single meal, what are we going to make?
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, that is a struggle. And I am in a rut right now. I'm in a season of being in a rut. So I'm having a hard time, but I do meal plan. I am also and I've gone back and forth. Some years or months or seasons of my life, I'm like, yeah, I don't need a meal plan. I just kind of eat what's in our freezers and our fridge and needs eating. And especially like in summer when we have a lot of produce, it's just like, well, we need to eat a lot of tomatoes right now.
Yes, right.
But I am in a season of meal planning right now. So I sit down usually about Sunday and I'll go through the fridge and see what's in there that needs using up, and I'll base meals off of that. And then like we just came through our pig harvesting season. So we've got a lot of pork right now. So it's kind of like, well, we need to eat a lot more pork and less chicken because our chickens are not going to become ready until, April. So it's just the ebb and flow of what we have. And then something I have done to kind of relieve some of the pressure for myself is the boys are all old enough to be cooking dinner now. So every Sunday they switch off. We rotate through each of the boys and they make meals on Sunday. They get to pick what they want. If I have to go shopping, I will, but we usually don't have to. We carry a lot that we don't have to shop for what they do. They usually go through the Joy of Cooking cookbook and they'll pick something. And they make dinner with some guidance and some help from me for those who need it. And I get a break. And it's nice because they pick things that I wouldn't think about eating. Right. And so a lot of times we've actually added new meals into our rotation because they made something that we all loved. And now we can keep making that in the future. Yeah. So as far as like go-tos, I do a lot of like meat and rice. So, we'll do a roast and rice, or chicken and rice, or with a pasta. I also do a lot of like pastas, chicken and pasta, beef and pasta. That's kind of my go-to when I am just like fried and I can't think of anything else.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite pasta source, or are you making it from scratch, or what are you using for that?
Most of the time I'm just buying Azure Standards brand. They're not the Azure Roni one, but they're Azure Market Organics, I think, is their one. The Semolina one. Yep. Yeah. I buy that. We do make it sometimes. We just came out of our egg drought, so we'll probably be making more pasta as our eggs are coming on again. Yeah. But it's also, you know how much it is to make pasta for a lot of people. So if I want to be standing at the counter for like 2 hours making pasta, I will. Yes. But most days I'm just like, dump the box in. It's way easier.
It's the thing about it. And I've heard people say it's easy to make pasta. It is easy. It's very simple. There's not that much to it, but it's also very time consuming and it's a huge mess. So easy. Yes. But it turns like pasta is like such an easy meal, but it turns that easy meal into a very much more difficult meal. Like, you have this high quality box of pasta, you get it out, you boil it, you cook some meat. If you have some kind of fermented vegetable, or if it's summer, you have a whole bunch of fresh vegetables or whatever, you have an easy meal ready to go. Right. But then when you're making the pasta, that's a whole different story. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It turns a simple meal into a 3-hour ordeal. And then all the dishes and everything with it. It's not so fun.
Yeah. I have a daughter who likes making it. And so when we make pasta, it'll be because she spent 3 hours in the kitchen making it. And that's, that's fine. Right. But yeah, not usually me.
Yeah. One of our older sons is really into it. So he'll make pasta for me sometimes, which is great. But he also knows it takes like 3 hours.
It really does. It does. But at least you can select your ingredients and all that kind of stuff. But when you have high quality pasta that you can source, So what are some of you said right now you're going through your pork. What are some of your favorite things to make with pork? Because I actually have a lot of pork right now before I restock like beef and everything. So what are your favorite?
So we do a lot of ground pork. So a lot of times that'll be, I either make like chorizo with breakfast, or I'll make, breakfast sausage, or for dinners, we'll do like stir fry. Like I'll just do a loose ground pork and fry it up and then throw in whatever veggies I have, usually cabbage, carrots, ginger, green onions, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And throw that together in a stir fry. So a lot of times we'll do flat chicken sandwiches. So it's just, we take chicken breasts and we pound them out and bread them and fry them. Well, we're at a chicken breast now. And so Ben, my husband, he was like, well, I bet I could do this with pork. So he took a pork loin, which would be pork chops, and cut it and banged them all out. And we did just a scallopini with that. So that was really good too.
Oh, yeah.
We will also do either like a slow cook braised pork loin, or I'll do a stuffed pork loin. So I'll take the pork loin and butterfly it out and then stuff it with like cream cheese and peppers and onions and garlic, roll it back up, wrap it in bacon, and roast it. It's very rich, but it's really good.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so when your sons are making their Sunday meal, are you like having them give you a list of things that they're going to need? Because if they're making something that maybe you don't usually make, you might not have it in stock, or how are you running that?
Most of the meals so far they've picked, we have just about everything, because I try to keep a pretty large working pantry for things. But every now and then, like I've told them, if you need something and I have to go to the grocery store, then you need to make sure I know by like Wednesday so that we have time to go and get what you need. But so far we haven't really had to do that.
Yeah. So do you have any lists anywhere, like on your YouTube channel or anything, where you share maybe a tour of your pantry or like a list of things? Because I think when people are brand new to this, and it sounds very easy, you know, you're a mom of 6, you're cooking all the time, you've been homesteading for a few years. So you're like, well, I have all that stuff. But I think sometimes people are like, well, what do you have? Like, what are you even putting in there? So that's the case. And it looks like a meal and not just random stuff.
Right. I don't actually, but I probably should either do a pantry tour or do a list. That would be really helpful.
Yeah. People would probably love that from you.
Yeah. I've thought about writing like a cookbook, but I'm in a season where I'm like, I do not have the time to write a cookbook right now. But maybe one of these days I will.
Yes. I'm putting my other earbud in because usually I'm listening to the house and then I'm listening like to the podcast at the same time, but it's starting to rain extremely hard. So I'm like, I can barely hear. So if you hear audience, some like weird noise, it's because we are having a very rainy day today, but that's okay.
Yeah. We're supposed to get the tail end of that tomorrow, I think, or early morning.
Yeah. I guess it's moving east. I don't know. Actually, I know it is because I saw, like I was following somebody on Instagram and she lives a little east of me and they were getting the severe weather last night. Or no, I'm sorry. She lives west of me and they were getting the severe weather last night. So yeah, it must be heading that way. So yeah.
Yeah. It's coming. We actually did all of our prepping today because it's supposed to bring a lot of wind too. So we're like, all right, fill the gas cans, get all the propane. We're going to make sure our water jugs are full because when we get high winds around here is when things kind of power goes out. Mm-hmm.
Well, that was actually one of the questions, and I'm going to come back to kitchen just because I think that people have a lot of questions there, but people are wondering how everything is since Hurricane Helene, how it affected you, and then if it's like how it affected those around you and the aftermath of all that.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So our immediate area in our county, we're a little bit southeast of Asheville, which was the area. Asheville and the eastern part of Tennessee got slammed really, really hard. So some of our friends that are up in that area are still dealing with the aftermath. They still have a lot of rebuilding to do. There's a lot of people that don't have housing or their housing is damaged, and still honestly some roads that are affected. So there is, I mean, it's been 4 or 5 months now that we're still all just kind of dealing with the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
Our immediate area has been okay. Most of the tree damage has been cleared up down here. A lot of the people in our community didn't get hit very hard. And what I mean by that is like there wasn't massive structural damage to their homes or anything like that. It's just been a lot of tree damage. For those of us who homestead, we have some friends that like their pasture just got destroyed because all of the trees fell on their pasture and just wrecked everything. And now if they pull everything out, all the pasture's gone. So like we have friends that are selling off cows because they don't have the pasture now.
Till they get that like reestablished. Yeah.
Right. And we've had a lot of friends that are now clearing trees away, like way, way away from their houses because they don't want to have a tree fall on their house again. And there was more trees around.
Right.
That could potentially do damage. So a lot of us are really, I guess you could say gun shy. and doing a lot of putting a lot of steps in place to make sure that none of us get hit like we did before. We personally did not have a lot of damage. We had one tree that fell down on the pig pen and it was easily fixable. So we wound up being kind of the relief crew. We had water, we had food, we didn't have power, but we were set up to where we had generators and stuff like that. So friends that needed water could come to our house and get water. And we had a tractor and chainsaws and strapping young lads that could go cut down trees.
You're ready to go.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that we didn't have damage so that we were in a place that we could go help everybody else who was dealing with that. So yeah, just I would say maybe still kind of reeling a little bit, especially those who are farther up in the mountains. But for the most part, I think now it's kind of, we're all just coming into a state where we just want to be really prepared to deal with that again. Yeah. So like I said, this storm is coming through and it's supposed to be pretty windy, not hurricane windy, but pretty windy. So we're all like, we're talking to our friends. We're all getting our gasoline and our generators and all that kind of stuff set up again.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it sometimes takes something like that happening before people take it real seriously. Like we always know those kind of things can happen. I mean, we live in a very, we get storms through here. We don't get hurricanes, obviously, but we get like tornadoes and things like that. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, we should get a generator. And then it takes us being out of power for like a day or two that we're like, why didn't we ever get a generator?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. We were out with 8 days. 8 days is a long time to go without power, but we did have a generator.
It is such a long time. We went without power for 3 days, and it sounds like that wouldn't be that big of a deal. Like you might kind of even in your head be like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. Right. It is not, because we stock large quantities of meat. We buy half a cow. We buy a whole hog. We had full freezers. We have, no water, which is, we had a dairy cow that needed water. We had animals. We had ourselves. Like you can't clean anything. You can't cook because you can't clean. You can't do laundry. I mean, it becomes a problem so incredibly fast. Like it just seems like it wouldn't be. And I know there's probably a lot of people who are like, yeah, it does. It's going to be a huge problem. But to me, like these aren't the things I instantly think of. But by day 3, we were like, we're going to have to like leave if this power doesn't come back on without a generator.
Yeah. And we had a lot of friends that were dealing with that too. So like for us, the way our well is set up, we can just unplug it from the wall and plug it into a generator. A lot of our friends don't have that. It's hard lined in. So they were like, how do you have water? We're like, we just unplugged our well and plugged it in the generator. But they're like, we don't have that option. Right. So unless you have a whole house generator, you have no water. I grew up in a family. So my grandmother was always prepared for like either the big one, the earthquake in California, or Y2K. Because that was a big thing when I was growing up. Y2K is coming. We have to be prepared. And so I grew up with a grandmother that's always like, we need to have water. We need to have food. We need to have, ways of like lighting and heating and all that kind of stuff. So naturally, we just kind of live that way anyways. For our house, I never thought about the animals. And so when it hit, Ben's like, I have to run the generator so I can pump water down to the animals. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. And I mean, we have a lot of pigs and chickens, so it's a lot of water. I'm thankful we didn't have the cow.
It's a lot of water.
And at the time, it was at the very end of September, so we hadn't gone into butchering season yet, which I'm so thankful for. So we had freezers that were on their way to being empty, that we could just condense everything into like 1 or 2 freezers and worry about the 1 or 2 freezers. But had it hit even a month later, we would have freezers full of pork, which would have been even more stressful. It's a whole thing you don't think about until you're like in it. Yeah.
It's okay if like one of your family members, like say you have a family member who lives like an hour away and you can bring all the meat to them. That is sort of an option as long as it's not a widespread thing. That's kind of the direction we were leaning into whenever this happened, 3 days. Like we ended up making it, but we did have to bring meat to family members who didn't lose power because otherwise we would have lost all the meat. It was the middle of summer, So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Needs to be prepared. That would have been a big expense.
Right, for sure. Yeah, it would have been a big expense. And I mean, for the life we live, like that's literally months of our lives, sometimes a year of our life where we're raising these
that
animals.
You put into.
And right. And there are a lot of people around here that raise good, organic, clean meat, but like we can't just go restock from like the grocery store with what we're raising.
And
if we lost it.
You can, like you'll make it, but the expense of what went into
Right.
all of that, like this quality meat. Yeah, it would just break your heart. Like you could do it,
Yeah.
but oh, you don't want to have to do that. So when considering the
Yeah.
cost of a generator, consider that.
Oh, totally.
What if you just purchased half a cow or you raised your own steer?
Yeah. It's a lot cheaper to buy a generator than have to buy all that meat again.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So lots of questions about balancing it all. Anytime I have a mom on who homeschools, has multiple children, who maybe has a YouTube channel or a homestead, we get a lot of questions about balancing all of that. So one person asks, what does your typical day look like? Where do you fit everything in along with all of your cooking, like your homeschooling, your cleaning? And is that ever overwhelming for you, or is it something that you're usually able to kind of flow with?
I definitely do have overwhelming days. I would say my struggle point is actually the YouTube channel. So I have to back up actually for a minute and say I'm not alone in this. My husband carries filming the YouTube channel and he carries all of the homestead stuff. He does all the animal chores. He does a lot of the garden handling. So it's not just me. So I'm not fitting it all in by myself.
Right.
So I want to be totally upfront with that right there.
Right.
My job here is homeschooling the children, keeping everybody fed, and editing the vlogs for the YouTube channels. So, and then of course, like I also help with gardening and stuff like that. And then he comes in and helps me with cooking and stuff. So it's definitely teamwork. That's a huge help as like how I get it all done is I have my spouse and I have my children and we all work together as a team. But my day to day is a typical morning for us is we get up. I'm usually up between 7:30 and 8. And the little girls get up with me then. And we actually let the big boys sleep in a little bit longer than that, mostly because it gives Ben and I a chance to just be by ourselves, with the little girls. Be by ourselves for 30 minutes, 45 minutes in the morning to just kind of like figure out the plan for the day and sit and have a minute. We'll drink coffee together. So by 9 a.m., everybody's up and I'm starting breakfast and we're starting our day. We're kicking that off. I make breakfast and then we jump into our communal school. So that'll be Bible, Latin, whatever we have on the docket that involves most of the children. We just do it all together and get that out of the way. And then depending on the day and what we have planned, we will either break to where they go to all their individual work or everybody heads outside with Ben to do whatever project is needed for the day. And then I will edit while they're either doing their individual school or they're outside. And then if it's a day where they're going outside to do work, then they just come in and do their individual school later. So we just kind of flip-flop whatever needs to be done. It kind of depends on the weather most days. And then while I'm editing, everybody's doing school or working. And then once I'm done editing, which is it usually takes me about 4 hours to edit a video. And that's not every day. It's like 2 to 3 days a week. Then it's usually about lunchtime, about 1 or 2 o'clock. We'll eat lunch and then we do whatever my project is for the day. Like if I need to do some preserving or if I have like a fancier dinner I want to do that day or laundry, chores, like all that kind of stuff. That's when I jump in and do that kind of stuff. And then we do dinner and then we all go to bed. So that's like a typical layout for our day.
Yeah. I feel like it's very similar to ours, except for it's a little bit mixed up. Like we have the same blocks. They're just a little bit flip-flop from yours. And then I think your kids probably go to bed a little bit later. Like it seems like your whole schedule, like your lunch and your school, like it seems like it might all be pushed a little, like maybe an hour difference than ours, but it's otherwise a very similar flow. And like you said, it really depends on the season and what projects are going on as to like what that'll look like. So it's a flow, not necessarily like this rigid schedule.
Yeah, we can't do rigid schedule. We've tried a couple times to do like super, super rigid, like time block things. And a pig gets out or, it's raining today and we planned on doing the garden or like things happen or, our friends call and are like, hey, can you come up here and help us with this? Like life just happens. And so we've learned to hold it very loosely. And part of the reason that like Ben came home and we're living this life we live is so we have more fluidity and we can do things off of a normal like workday schedule. So we just kind of go with the flow, but we do keep that like general rhythm going. So we don't get lost.
Now, do you keep it up during the summer? Because we always have this like, oh, we're going to keep doing the same schedule all through the summer. Like, why get completely out of our school schedule? Like, we could at least do like a modified, lighter version of it. And then sometime around, like, we always have that plan. And then we're starting to do maybe some stuff in the garden or some things here and there. And before you know it, we're like not doing school at all.
Yeah, no, I don't even bother trying to do school in the summer because I know
Smart.
It's like, it's so crazy in the summer. Yeah. Like we are doing so much. You're always either planting something or harvesting something or weeding something or, you know, taking care of meat chickens. And it just gets really, really busy. And a lot of people, like other people are off during the summer. So, you know, that's the time other people are doing activities and we want to hang out.
That probably
with friends.
factors in.
Yeah. So I don't bother. We're just going to do our summer thing and then get back into it in fall.
Yep. That's what we end up doing. Like we say that we won't. And then for many factors that you can't even really predict when, you know, we're recording here in March, it always ends for one reason or the other. And you're like, why did that happen? Like, like you said, other people are off. Things just seem to fill the calendar, but it is a nice break. And then we always have that craving around, you know, or late summer, early fall, like, okay, we're ready to get back into some kind of more structured routine with our day. So,
yes.
Yeah. Many years ago, when I was pregnant with my 5th child, I decided to add YouTube to my internet business to diversify and open up a whole world of opportunities. Many things have changed about YouTube since that day. A lot of things, honestly, have remained the same, but I love to educate students on how to create an income from home through YouTube with my YouTube Success Masterclass, which you can find over at bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube masterclass, bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube masterclass, all lowercase. There I share the mistakes that I made when I first got started, how you can achieve success faster, and how to earn a diverse and stable income from the YouTube platform. So if you are interested in using video to reach a wider audience for a business you already have, or you're just curious about what it might look like to incorporate YouTube into your life as a homemaker or a stay-at-home mom, go ahead and check out that free masterclass that I put together for you. Okay, so
yeah, totally.
Another question, like in regards to balancing it all, someone says, how do you juggle making all that completely from scratch food while homeschooling and having little ones? You always seem relaxed and calm in the midst of it all. Do you ever get flustered? How do you deal with overwhelm? You look like a superwoman. Tell us your secrets, which I have to really quick point out that I do always find it funny when people say these things about an edited video, right? Like we're going to share being flustered, you know, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that is hard because we do try to be realistic because we don't want to appear perfect because we're not perfect, but it is edited. Like I'm not going to put my kids having a meltdown into the video because nobody wants to actually hear that. That's very stressful.
Exactly.
I do definitely get flustered. There's been times where we've actually just given up on a video because it's like everything is chaos and the baby's melting down and the toddler is like dying of starvation and there's like chaos going on.
Yeah.
But I would say one of the things that keeps me like going is my desire for this. Like I want clean food for my family and I want from scratch food for my family because there's just a lot in the food system that we don't agree with and we don't want to put into our kids. And I know this is going to affect them for the long run. So it makes me happy to sit down and do from scratch meals for our family. I also, like I said earlier, I kind of have like these go-to things that make my life easier that when I have a day where I'm just like, I can't even anymore. I've lost, or we've spent all day outside and we've been gardening all day. And taking care of stuff outside. It's just like, I'm just going to throw some chicken in the Instant Pot and put some rice on. And we're going to eat that with whatever vegetables in the fridge. And we're going to be okay.
And that chicken could be frozen.
Totally.
You know, you could have had no thought whatsoever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's been many, many days where I'm like, I have some extra beef in the fridge. Let's do tacos, you know, like super easy. So it doesn't have to be, I think from scratch becomes like a very scary term. In this idea of like, you have to make like restaurant meals and that's not how it is. Like, it's okay to just have like a meat, a starch and a veggie. if that's all you have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you have the brain power for.
Yes.
And I'm not going to lie. Some days I make mac and cheese from scratch, but sometimes we have mac and cheese for dinner. Like, it happens. It's okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And having, like you said, like a handful of meals that you can pull out on any of those certain occasions, it is from scratch, but it's not going to impress anyone, you know? And so I think that,
totally.
like you said, I think people take from scratch and they take it to mean it has to be like way more than it even is. And then also there's definitely something to be said for getting good at something. Like you know, if you make bread, you've made it hundreds of times. It's not even hard. It's not something you have to think about. It's as easy as taking, like, I don't even know, like people get these like meal kits and they're like pouring all these things and reading the directions, and like literally making bread is easier in this instance because I know exactly what I'm doing with it.
Right. Yeah. And I would say that's a really good advice, is just finding a couple things that you can really focus on and become really good at. So when it comes to the point where you're just tired or whatever, you can just throw it together. It's a lot easier. And I will say one thing too, as far as making stuff from scratch, there's a lot of times actually, where I'll just make a huge batch, like a really huge batch of the same thing. I'm not putting any more effort in. I'm just doubling or tripling all the ingredients. And then I just stick it in the freezer. And so when we do have times where we haven't been home all day, or we've been out in the garden, or I'm just fried, I will just, like, tomorrow's dinner actually is shepherd's pie that I have in the freezer. I'm just going to pull it out of the freezer and defrost it and throw it in the oven.
Right.
And now I have still a from scratch meal, but I don't have to make it tomorrow.
Yeah. I always think, oh, I should do that. And then I just never, ever do. But I think that is such a great thing to do, so that when you do have those moments, it's something that you can easily pull from.
It makes life a lot easier.
That's smart. So what are some examples? Like you mentioned lots of rice and pasta and meats. Do you have any like recipes, or like what are something that you're making every single week?
Oh gosh. Usually some kind of spaghetti type meal every single week, mostly because my kids ask for it.
And it's so
I'll be like,
easy.
hey guys,
when you got
what do you
so
want
much
to eat this week? And they'll be like, spaghetti or pasta with red sauce. Yeah.
Yep. You got ground beef, you got pork, and it's cheap and easy to find. Like, I'm sure you make some of yours too and can it, but like, it's also cheap and easy to find organic, high quality, in glass jars pasta sauce.
Yes, totally. I actually make mine out of tomato paste a lot of times. So I'll just throw tomato paste in and water and the meat and seasonings, and it simmers for 30 minutes and it's thick and it's good to go.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'd say that's probably our top, like we don't have a clue what we're making at all, but we have ground beef or ground pork in the fridge. We're doing spaghetti of some sort.
Right. Yeah. Or I'll do pasta carbonara, which is like bacon and eggs and cheese on spaghetti noodles. So super easy.
Oh, okay.
That's a go-to for us too.
So wait, what is that? Explain that again. You said eggs and cheese.
Pasta carbonara. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you take egg yolks. So you boil pasta and you fry bacon. Like I cut it up into little pieces and I fry bacon. And then usually I'll deglaze the pan with a little bit of white wine after the bacon's cooked. Okay. And then you combine egg yolks and Parmesan cheese, like a good amount of Parmesan cheese. And you temper the eggs with the pasta water. And then you drain the pasta, throw the bacon and the white wine in and the egg yolks in, and the heat from the noodles keeps cooking. And I usually reserve some pasta water too to add some to kind of sauce it up. It's super easy and filling and delicious, and we love it.
Oh, I need to think about that because I like the protein aspect of it. And we go through times where we have, which is so funny at this moment, but we have like so many eggs, where you don't know what to do with them all.
Yes.
So that sounds like,
yes. Yeah. There's like a million recipes online.
I mean, I've heard of it, but I didn't really think I ever really knew what it was. But like when we're not sure what to make, that's another thing we do all the time, mostly because my daughter who cooks really likes to do it, but it goes with so many things. It goes with chicken. It goes with like a pork meatball or sausage. Yeah. Like just some either milk or cream. You can thicken it with a little bit of flour, add in some onions, garlic, salt, blend it up, and you have a cream sauce. Or we'll even do, if we have cream cheese, we'll throw that in there. But there's like, Parmesan. Ooh, you can throw in mozzarella, just any like creamy, cheesy thing you have, and then toss it with pasta and meat. And that's like a definite staple for us.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We'll do like a gravy and meat over rice or or over noodles or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like a like stroganoff. Stroganoff's real easy. So that's a meat gravy with beef and mushrooms in it, sour cream, and you throw it over noodles. Super easy.
That's a good idea.
Really good. And if you have like canned meat, I've done it with canned beef before. So all I have to do is pop open a can and throw it in there.
Yeah.
I don't even have to brown anything. It's already done.
That's really fast. Yeah. We'll do something like that, but over mashed potatoes, like some kind of like meat and like a gravy from the drippings and then over mashed potatoes as the carb. Like you and I both are just talking about like carb, meat, vegetable, in whatever variety that you currently have in stock, whatever season it might be. But that's such an easy formula, isn't it? Like that really simplifies it.
It is. Yeah. And if you kind of stick with that formula, it's always different because every season it's changing. So like tonight we're going to have chicken with rice and I have lettuce in the fridge. So we're going to have salad. So very easy.
A little salad with it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like, you know, the carb can be bread, it can be rice, it can be pasta, it can be potatoes.
Right.
So it can be any variety of that. And then your meat can be whatever you raise, or you can easily stock based on what part of the world you're in. It could be chicken, it could be pork, it could be beef. Right. Like today for lunch, I made some sourdough rolls and then we had cheeseburgers on those, some fries, and I had some lettuce too. So salad. But it's like that same formula over and over again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you just base it off what you have on hand and it doesn't have to be crazy. And because we cook that way, I don't have to go to the grocery store as often because I'm not making menus based on necessarily what we want to eat and I have to go shop for. I'm making menus off of what we have. So that makes life a lot easier.
That is a good distinction.
It's cheaper because I'm not going to the grocery store all the time and I hate grocery shopping. So it saves me the trouble.
Yeah. So what grocery store do you have? And do you do like a stock up for certain items, or, you know, I'm sure there's certain things that you can't raise that you go get. Do you do like a Costco, or what do you have where you are?
So we actually do most of our stuff from Azure Standard. We just do ordering from that once a month. I get all of our bulk stuff, our flour, pasta, nuts, any canned goods that I'm
like
not
frozen
making
fruit.
Yeah, totally. I buy frozen fruit too if I don't have any, here that we grow ourselves. All of our potatoes, some of our other vegetables, I will, if I can't get them here locally, then I will do that. So that's most of it. And then we have Ingles down here. We also have Walmart, but I shop at Ingles. Yeah. And so that's the kind of stuff I buy from them, is like cheeses that I can't get from Azure. So like brie and like the more like, I say fancy cheeses. I'll get cheeses from them. And then we do like Asian condiments because we like to eat a lot of like Asian food or Asian flavored food. Some organic vegetables if I can't get it from our local farms and I'm not growing it ourselves. Particularly like this past weekend was our youngest boy's birthday and he wanted broccoli. Our farm near us didn't have broccoli and I'm not growing broccoli right now. So I went to the grocery store and got broccoli.
Right.
That's most of it. Really just like condiments. I get all of our butter and dairy and all that from Azure too. Yeah. So most of our stuff comes from Azure if I'm not growing it myself and I can't get it locally. Yeah.
And you get a gauge for your family and what you go through. Cause like, I know what I'll do is I'll either order too much or I'll order not enough from Azure, but then I've gotten it kind of dialed in like, okay, this is how many potatoes we need so that once a month, I don't need to go get potatoes somewhere else. Like I can get these high quality, good price potatoes as long as I buy X number of pounds, right? Like that's something that you eventually get the gauge for. But it can be a moving target with families like ours because the kids grow and you add another one and then, gotta keep
right. Or we have seasons where like we're in a potato eating season right now. So I ordered a 50-pound box last month and we've eaten through it entirely. And we still have another, I think, week and a half until our next drop. Yes. I'm like, so Ben was like, order 2 boxes.
We're apparently going through a lot of potatoes right now.
So that we can eat. Yeah, we just love the potatoes. So, I mean, that happens, but it's all good.
We always love potatoes. Like it's just such an easy filling staple that you can do. You know, you can mash them, you can fry them, you can oven bake them. There's just so many.
Oh yeah.
It's versatile.
They're good. I should say, since we've talked about like go-to meals, like easy. One of my favorites is actually making French fries in the oven. So I just we cut potatoes into French fries and then I put tallow on it and then I throw them in the 400-degree oven for like, it usually winds up being about an hour and I toss them every now and then. But then I'll make those, but then I'll top it with ground beef, cheese, onions,
Ooh.
cilantro. I might make a cheese sauce. Like we just do like loaded French fries.
Yeah.
And that is one of my favorites because it's very filling. Everybody loves it. And it's like junky food, you know, instead of going to
would love that.
To a fast food restaurant. So yeah, it's so good.
I've never thought about that. It's kind of like filling. Nachos, but with French fries. And I feel like my kids would love that. And then I don't have to buy, you know, find like chips that don't have seed oils and all that kind of stuff, which is actually really difficult.
It's very
difficult. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, it's super easy.
Yeah.
And then
it's like
then
basically
everybody
impossible,
gets to,
especially for tortilla chips.
Oh yeah, I know. It's so hard. It's kind of like where we're at with that right now is we still buy them. We buy the late July and they do have seed oils in them, but I'm like, you kind of have to let some things go. So it's all right.
You absolutely do. And but it's just nice. Like, I like the idea when it's an easy swap, like, oh, we could just do that with fries.
Yeah.
Easy enough. But like, I'm like you, if something's not perfect, but there's no other option, I'm like, I just don't care. I know we're going to live through this. Like, I know it.
It's going to be
and we're going to definitely eventually die also.
Yeah. Our diet is like 99% great. And so if we have some junk food in there, like, it's okay. And nobody's going to, like you said, we're going to die eventually anyways.
Yeah. And I always just think about like, you know, when we were growing up, like our parents didn't have a lot of the information, they didn't have any of the information that we have now. And so like, think about what we grew up on. And I'm like, I mean, not to say like, oh, just throw it all out, you know, like,
no,
who cares?
totally.
Because I do think like we enjoy great health and all this stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, just the things that I grew up on eating, I'm like, I think it's gonna be okay. I think that's another thing. Like moms need to be encouraged.
It was like top ramen and pizza rolls and, you know, fish sticks.
Pizza rolls.
Like, that's what I lived on. So I'm like, you know, I have this
bagel
conversation
bites.
with my, totally. Oh, I love bagel bites. I have this conversation with Ben all the time. Like, we survived. We're going to be okay. I mean, you know, maybe not the best health in my 20s, but that's why we do what we do now for our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. But just know there's like, because also I talk to a lot of moms like who are like, well, my grocery budget, like how could I possibly eat healthy? I'm like, listen, you just do the best you can. Like if you buy produce, but it's not organic and you know, that the bulk of your food is like a carb or like a whole grain, you just do the best you can. And trust me, you're going to be fine. Like it's
totally
not, you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah. I always try to tell people, if it comes down to a question like that of like, well, how do I even? The non-organic vegetable is 100 times better than the ramen noodles, right? So
exactly,
you always just do whatever like one step up that you can afford or
the best choice
source or whatever you have. Yeah, totally.
Well, that's such an encouraging thing. Tell the listeners where they can follow along with you. We know YouTube, Hollar Homestead, and then like what you have coming up maybe this spring, summer, they can look forward to following along with.
Yeah. So like I said, we've got a home edition going. That's kind of sporadic because it kind of deals with like weather, if it's raining and if we can get out there and do it.
Yes.
And also like, you know, county and stuff like that, permits and whatnot. But we have the home edition going. And then we didn't really do much gardening last year because I was having a baby and I was not even going to try.
Right.
She was born in May. So I was like, not going to go into that. So I didn't do we hardly grew anything and I didn't do any preserving last year. But we are hoping to hit it hard again this year. It's like really, we actually almost doubled our garden space with Ben putting in new beds. So we're going to go hopefully kind of crazy and do a lot of that.
Yeah. And share all of that. So people who, you know, maybe you just want to grow a little bit in your backyard, or maybe you're wanting to have a full-blown homestead and you're like, how the heck do I do all this? A really good something to follow along with as you work it out this summer. You know, obviously you've been at this a few years, so you have a lot of knowledge to share and then plenty of things that you learn along the way. So over on Hollar Homestead on YouTube, I know you're on Instagram, but is YouTube like the best place to follow along?
YouTube is the best place. Yeah. I'm very sporadic with Instagram. I've actually been taking a really extended break just because it's better for my brain. And that's how I get more things done is by not being on Instagram.
Exactly. Yep. Same. All right. Well, thank you so much, Meg. I really appreciate you taking the time to share.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again. It's been fun.
Thanks as always for listening to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. My husband Luke and I and our 8 kids work together side by side on our little homestead and use our blog, podcast, and YouTube channel to reach other homemakers, home cooks, and homesteaders with practical recipes and daily family life. For everyday sourdough recipes, make sure to check out our blog, farmhouseonboone.com, and to dig deeper, we do also offer a course called Simple Sourdough over at bit.ly/farmhouse sourdough course. That's all one word, bit.ly/farmhouse sourdough course. If you're looking to learn how we earn an income online, check out my YouTube course at bit.ly/farmhouse YouTube course, all one word.